So David Johnston is the co-founder and CEO of DoorSpot, a SaaS company focused on streamlining property management. With a sharp focus on modernizing outdated processes, David's leadership centers on identifying stagnant markets and introducing streamlined, innovative solutions. Through DoorSpot, he aims to reshape the property management experience, driving efficiency and enhancing usability. David, it is great to have you on. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Great to be here.
Good. So it's cool for me to be on here. This is our first guest appearance on the show. Those of you who have been listening for a while know that we've been talking about season 1 guest. David Johnston is our first. Really excited about that personally. But I'm also excited because I don't think David's ever been on a podcast, or at least my wife didn't. I was telling her yesterday about this show coming up, and she's like, this doesn't sound like David's thing. So David, is this the first time for you?
This is my first.
All right. That really makes me excited because David has a lot of stuff that he could be sharing on podcasts pretty regularly. So I feel kind of honored that we got him first. So it's a win for us. It's good stuff. All right. So David, before we jump into some of your story and some tidbits here and there, I'm going to start off with a couple of random questions just to get everything off and running. So
let's do it.
I think I know a couple of these, but are you an early bird or a night owl?
Currently, I try to be neither.
Okay.
I try to be. Sleep is important.
Yep.
But I tend to be early. Actually.
Okay. You tend to be early. Okay. Has that changed? Because you did run pretty late nights, right? Back in the day.
I tend to still run pretty late and get up pretty early, but I definitely am more productive in the morning. So
okay, that's fair.
Just more hours.
That's fair. What's the most unusual job you've ever had?
I was pretty fortunate. I didn't have a lot of unusual jobs. I got trained as a software engineer and jumped in really early. But I would have to say my first job as a software engineer, I was creating an inventory of quilt patterns for an Institute of Regional Analysis. And I spent a lot of time looking at quilting patterns.
That's so funny. Oh, that's great. Okay. So you got the info on quilts, huh?
Apparently.
It
was a long time ago.
That's awesome. All right. Last question on this kind of lightning round. If you could instantly master just any new skill, like just something, boom, you had it on lockdown, what would that be? If you could just pick one.
The whole point is that it changes so frequently, but I think it's marketing. The trends just change so rapidly to be able to pick those up and stay ahead of the curve. And on the front end of that, I think that would be where it is. It feels like you're in a constant chasing cycle there sometimes.
Yep, that makes sense.
Changes on the platforms.
That would be a superpower for sure. You didn't have to continuously update yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right. So David, I read a little bit of your bio earlier, just kind of give a snapshot of where you're at. Before we launch into some of that, I'd like to can you give me like a quick summary of how you started out, how you got here? It doesn't have to be real in depth because we'll dive in a bit more, but give the listeners just a background on who David is and how he got here.
Yeah, again, I started as a software engineer, was really fortunate to go on at some great startups early on in my career and kind of progressed through that. Along that way, obviously, I kind of started having the desire to go out and start something on my own and was really fortunate to work with some people that gave me opportunities to grow and learn in that area. And that went until about 2018, and then I started my first company. We exited in 2021, and here I am on my next.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're from Kentucky originally, right?
That is correct.
Okay. So we have a Kentucky native. Good deal. Yep. And right. So it's kind of cool. I met David originally at church, 10-ish, maybe not that far back. 6 years ago, 7. Was it close to 10?
Close, yeah. It's like
time is speeding up these days. A while back ago. Yeah. So, David and his wife, now a couple of boys, and your daughter Sophie. Actually, your daughter Sophie was really good friends with my oldest daughter,
That's
too.
correct.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, growing family. Are you guys gonna have any more? Or?
No,
Okay,
we are
you're
done.
not gonna try to catch up with us.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
Absolutely not.
that's fair. That's fair. So, what we like to do when we're and you're the first person to experience this, but the show's name, Coffee Chaos and Cash Flow, we want to ask our guests that come on the show about each of those elements, and I'm going to break it down a little bit. So, all three of
Sure.
those sections, I want to kind of target and get from a little bit more depth on your experience in relation to those. So, coffee. Obviously, everybody kind of uses coffee as like the standard caffeine type thing to keep things moving. You've got a cup there. I know you drink a good bit of coffee. So is that kind of your go-to? Like we talk about getting in, you're going through the grinds. Startup life is intense. Any sort of business is usually pretty intense starting out and maybe never gets less intense. What is your go-to source for just staying on top of things, whether you're pulling early mornings, late nights? Is it coffee? Is it something else? What's your motivating factor there?
Yeah, I don't know that it's any that it's a specific thing. I think it's a combo. I mean, for the to really get started, it is coffee for me in the morning. But I think
Yeah,
to sustain, my wife plays a huge role, right? We
sure.
go through the emotional roller coasters of startups at times, and so having support there behind you is a
Yeah,
huge factor.
yeah. No, I get that. I've been involved in a few different odds and ends over the last few years, and if I was married to just about anybody else, I don't think this would have worked out a long time ago,
Yeah,
right?
100%.
Beverly has played a just tremendous role in keeping me grounded, also helping me, when we're
Yeah.
running outside the edges, come back to reality a little bit. So,
Hmm.
and she has just an outstanding capacity to handle crap, which you experience a lot when
Yeah,
you're in
absolutely.
business. So, yeah, I get that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot of good stories I'm sure could be shared there. So on the chaos element, there's always something going on, right? If you put out a fire, you might have three more pop up. So give me a little bit of your perspective on that. Maybe a personal story of when things got crazy, maybe unexpected, maybe it was expected, but something that really went off the rails for you in any one of your ventures, maybe even in your career experience prior to that. What was something that just really hit you and caused you to maybe have to adapt or renegotiate things?
Yeah, I think I mean, to your point, we've all had the fires and catastrophes on a day to day where maybe a bug occurs that was hits you completely off guard. But I think the biggest for me has not been any of those. Those kind of feel like normal after a while, right?
Okay,
It's I
just
think
expect them.
you're just kind of the unexpected is what's expected, and so I think the craziest thing for me, the chaos of it, is always the timing of
Mm,
things. It feels like entrepreneurship is definitely the biggest factor in my life where some of your biggest surprises, good and bad, the timing of them seem to go as far from the plan sometimes as possible. Now, um, you know,
are you
if
talking about
most of the
like
places, yeah,
specifically like on releasing something or getting something out like that timeline gets
no,
pushed back or what?
I'm saying, sometimes we put the best plans in and they're tried and tested, and maybe that is in customer acquisition, and you just have this home run. It's a home run, and it bombs, right?
Okay.
And then the next moment you do something small that is going to you have very little expectation about, and it just takes off, right? Or even in my previous company, even the timing around um, our growth and how that kind of grew quickly and led to exiting of the company was COVID, and so I
Yeah.
think that was probably the craziest thing, right? Is you're building a platform, and then due to a major pandemic in the world, it just triggers growth that you couldn't have foreseen.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely the craziest.
So I want to dive into that a little bit because I'm
Sure.
assuming you're referring to Two Mites, right?
Yep, correct.
So tell us a little bit. This is the company you exited from. give us a quick snapshot of what Two Mites did and what it was created for.
Yeah, it was a all-in-one SaaS platform for churches to help them receive donations online, manage events, manage people, a little bit of everything. And, it was one of those right place, right time, in the sense of, everybody had to go online
Yeah.
because in person, everything was shut down. And
Yep.
so the factor there just kind of the timing worked out perfectly. And it was something that I never could have predicted
Mm-hmm.
or that any of us could have predicted. And so I think those are the kind of events that the chaos doesn't have to be bad, right?
Right.
Chaos can be good, but
Right.
it definitely sent my world personally into like a spin cycle at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's interesting because I got to work with you a little bit in the Two
Mm-hmm.
Mites era, kind of getting that out there, and it was funny because prior to the pandemic, when I was like, talking to people that I knew, friends and family that were in ministry and churches, it was surprising at that point how many churches, ministries in general, just didn't have an online solution, even just for the
Correct.
giving side, right? Like they were just
Yep.
like, oh yeah, everybody writes a check, they put cash in, like. Oh, like so your big churches, obviously they've had something for a little while, but a lot of your medium to small churches, they just had nothing.
That's correct.
And
Yep.
the interest initially was like, they're like, we don't really need it. And then all of a sudden you've got the pandemic and people are like not going to stuff
And they
anymore.
went
And these
crazy.
people start reaching back out. They're like, hey, what was that tool that you were trying to talk to us about for giving?
Yeah.
Because they kind of still needed, people to give, but they weren't showing up anymore. So it is
Yep.
interesting. Like there was just a serious like dynamic shift there, and the need became apparent.
That's right.
So yeah,
Yep.
that's a
Yep.
great example of chaos actually providing a good solution that might not have been expected. So yeah, that's
Absolutely.
good
I mean,
stuff.
typically chaos gives you an opportunity to kind of evaluate something from a perspective that you never looked at. And so I think
Yeah,
there's always opportunity there.
yeah, that's good. That's good. So going into the cash flow side of the discussion, just give us a snapshot of how your current and previous business ventures have made money. What has been, maybe you have a particular business model that you've always gone to, or a smattering of different things. Give us a snapshot on that.
Yeah. So currently, DoorSpot's a SaaS platform, and we are a subscription-based model. That's where my experience typically lies, and so we've been able to stick with that model through um, everything that we've worked on in the past. And so I think, we always have a little bit of extra revenue channels through that, whether it's through partnerships or add-on services and things like that. But the pretty standard business model is just subscription based, and
Yeah.
we've been able to stick through that pretty easily. And we may have to the pivots become in how we're pricing or how we're packaging, and less about the model itself.
Okay. Interesting. And have you arrived at that discovery, so to speak, here with DoorSpot after trying different ideas in the past? Have you always kind of maintained a pretty even focus there in terms of business model, or has it changed much?
No, we've been able to maintain. I mean, our focus is around providing recurring value, and
Okay.
so that I think that aligns well with the pricing model, and that's been our goal, is to really focus there. If we felt like we had to change that, then we weren't providing the value that we needed to.
Yep. That makes sense. Okay, so now that we've gotten some of that background and different elements in there, I really want to talk a bit more about DoorSpot, because that is your current project. That's your baby at the moment. Give me the background on that. Like, how did that come about? Why did you choose rental management particularly? What problems did you see in the industry? What are you addressing? Just all of that.
Yeah, I had some experience in a previous job where I was working in the property management space and building for that. And it wasn't on the rental side of the market, but it allowed me to view into that. And I just saw, it was interesting to me. I got to learn a lot about that area during that time. After that project was over, I kept digging, doing my own research, learning more about that, and I just felt it was a great place that I had a lot of interest. At that point, I kind of started doing research into that space, and there's a lot of options, and it just felt like a place where I could come in. There was a lot of opportunity to innovate and just kind of put my spin on things, if you will, and just get a different outlook. And so that's really where we've been focused and how we're providing that now. Our goal is to really reach people at all phases of the rental experience, whether you're just starting out and have your first couple properties, or whether you're a seasoned property management company and even if you're doing short, mid, or long-term rentals. So we want to be able to help people
Okay.
on all aspects there. And so that's really our focus, is providing a really simple platform that allows you to grow your business.
You talked about putting your spin on maybe what the industry's done. Well, give me an example of that, and what is the differentiator for DoorSpot that you are really excited about in the market?
Yeah, I think so. With us, my spin is maybe hard to describe at times, but I think our differentiator is really around one, just modernizing the experience, but also really how we're bringing in and making everything seamless. We we have the philosophy of keeping everything in house and really building out a platform that manages all your needs, and that really it's about how well it works together. So as we all know, over the past several years now, laws around rentals and tenant managements and everything have been changing rapidly. And so
Sure.
to be able to address those, we feel like there needs to be a real focus around how people are communicating with each other, how your finances are flowing, and being able to see that total picture from top to bottom. And so that's really what we're focusing, is providing you visibility into your own business that you may not have
Okay.
had previously, and doing
Nice.
that in a way that is very automated and seamless, so that way you can get back out there and be growing your portfolio, or making better experiences for your tenants, or easier to work with your vendors, or whatever your need may be right now.
So that makes a lot of sense, because I know something that has been said about you and the programming that you've done in previous things is how good the accounting, the reporting side of products you've developed has been. You seem to excel in that category. So is the idea here with DoorSpot is not strictly to collect a rent check so you don't have to, keep tabs on it, but also to
Yeah,
get that business level insight. Makes a lot of sense. I could see why you would excel in that department.
absolutely. I mean, I think that's it's definitely became one of my strengths over the last 10 or 15 years. I'm not really sure how I got there at the beginning of it, but I've been here for a long time. And so, yeah, I think it's important. I mean, getting back to an earlier point, no matter what your business is, understanding your finances and how that affects the regular decisions you're making day to day in your business is critical, right?
Yeah.
And so, providing the tools there to do the day to day operations and give you that business insight, we feel like will really help you grow your business over time.
Yeah. So, David, having been in software programming for as long as you have, what's your year count right now that you've actively been working in this space, you think?
I don't do as much development right now, but I guess technically I've been in this space about 24 years.
Okay. I was 20 something, so I was trying to
Yeah,
guess where it'd be. Okay. So it's 24 years, like that the landscape, right, has changed so drastically, right?
drastically.
So
Yeah.
24 years ago, that would put us at, Windows 2000. That was, XP. Like this was the era of stuff changing there. What
Hmm.
what can you say about obviously the rate of change has accelerated significantly, as the further along we go.
Yeah.
What are some things that maybe you're really excited about in the future of just the software space as a category, and maybe something that you're not excited about or you see as a potential game changer, for the worse? Just give me your ideas. I mean, you've been here for so long. You have such a depth of knowledge in this. I'm just curious, like, what do you see in the next 5 years or so for the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I'm not much of an oracle of that kind of thing as far as predicting the future. I mean, it's I think we're going to see a lot of growth around some obvious spaces, right? There's such a push into AI right now. It's really hard to predict where that can go from a practical perspective. Um, I tend to live more in the middle, right? Of what I would consider being trying to be very practical with new tooling. All I can predict or that I feel is that whatever we have now will change pretty drastically in 5 years.
Yeah,
That could be anything from how we are hosting our companies to efficiencies our developers have to release new things quicker, or could be content, or it could be anything. So I think that all of that will change drastically. I just don't know. I don't spend a lot of time trying to think about what that exactly will look like in five
sure.
years. And as far as the tech, I think it's gotten much. In some ways, our life has gotten much easier. Where to
Hmm.
your point, at the beginning of my career, we used to have to stand up actual servers and write software and manage those. A lot of that has gotten so much easier. At the same time, there's just a lot more of everything, right? So for people new to it's a lot to learn, and there's a pretty steep curve. So I think the things that excite me now are really around tools that work really well together, and that you don't have to spend days, weeks, months to kind of piece this and something else together, right? It's around just being more efficient. And I think, little things work with that every day, everything from some of the AI tools to automation tools to even just how simple it is to do something like this now, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah, I think that's what excites me, just seeing how those little things work together better in the future.
sure. That's awesome. Yep. So give me an idea for you personally, the next couple 3 years or so. What are you excited about? What do you obviously, you're growing DoorSpot. What do you hope to see, plan to see DoorSpot accomplish in the next few years? What's best case scenario there?
Yeah, so we're a very early stage company right now, and we feel like we have a lot more to offer. So, the next couple of years for us is a lot of product growth. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to be able to meet the needs of everybody from someone just starting out in their rental business all the way up through, the largest property management companies. And so for us, it's just continuing to refine that. Add additional functionality, kind of help them anticipate the changes that are happening in their business, which is
Sure.
why I'm not focused on the next 5 years of tech as much as
Right.
I am the property management space. And so, really just trying to remain dialed in there and, see us be able to help more people grow their real estate businesses. And, uh, yeah, I think that's really it for us, is just to kind of see that grow.
Yeah, I love that. So your focus, maybe personally, is keeping a really good pulse on the economy of that industry in general, right? So you're not necessarily always just, knee deep in the software development side, but
Right.
also how can this product better serve a changing market? Because I'm actually looking at that market and staying up to date.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, yeah, we really want to focus on the economical side, but also just on the day to day. Again, going back to just changes in the rental landscape. Some of those aren't economic, and some of those are just new compliance or regulation needs or that kind of
Sure.
thing. And so, if you had some rental properties, staying on top of that is a full time job for you. And anywhere we can ease that pain along that path, we want to.
Yeah. So, because I'm assuming I don't do anything in real estate on the investment front, but I'm assuming if you have properties across multiple states,
Yeah,
that could function pretty differently, right? So if I have
absolutely.
homes here, a couple in Indiana, maybe a couple out in Washington State, just whatever, and maybe they're commercial, maybe they're residential, the functionality of what I'm having to keep track of day to day looks very different for those doors. I'm assuming that's the case. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
So,
that's absolutely the case. It's all the way. It's a little beyond states, right? It goes all the way down to the local level. So,
oh wow,
so
okay,
there's, there are a lot of possible combinations and issues in being able to just work more hand in hand with more groups allows us to help more along that path. So that's really where we're focused.
that's great. I love it. Cool, good stuff. Well, David, it has been a lot of fun getting to chat with you
Excellent.
here. I'd like to finish off by just asking a couple of things. First of all, how do we listeners keep up with you, specifically, obviously following DoorSpot, but what are some ways that we can also just tangibly get out the news of what you're doing and share that, especially the people that we know in the rental management side?
Yeah, I think just doorspot.com is the best place, right? That's where
Okay.
we're gonna link everything. Um, we do have a blog at doorspot.com/blog, and we're available on LinkedIn. So just look us up. That's definitely where we're posting the most and just keeping everything current. So I would say that is definitely the best place to keep up with what's going on.
Perfect. Will do. All right. What about just personal recommendations from you? Is there any, and it might be a podcast, might be a book, might be something else, I don't know, a movie. What's something that you have read, listened to, watched recently that was great in any category that you'd recommend?
I haven't read it as recently, but I normally read it every little bit. Is I think one Crossing the Chasm is still is a book that I go back to from time to time. I
Okay.
think there's just great insights in there. So it's probably my favorite. That's one that I
Crossing the
like to
chasm.
go back to.
Yep.
So I'd always recommend that.
Awesome. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, David, thanks again. It has been
Yeah.
a lot of fun getting to chat with you, and again, getting the first David Johnston podcast appearance on the in the on the globe, man. Like this
That's
was the
right.
first time we
That's
got it.
right.
You heard it here first. Excited about that. Thanks for coming on,
Of
and
course.
we are looking forward to seeing what happens down the road.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Cheers, buddy.
See ya.
Bye.